Welcome to the, I don't know what it is, edition, a couple of weeks from the All-Star break edition.
Eloy is back edition.
The Eloy is back edition. Good idea of sharing Sox. I'm Side Sox duty geezer Leigh Allan. With me, my son, and usually West Coast correspondent Will, but now, and for next 6 weeks or so, next room correspondent, because we're going to do a plug here. Will is in town for the rehearsals and up to opening night of the world premiere of his play Campaigns Inc. You'll all want to get tickets. They are available now at timelinetheater.com.org.
.com. Yes, I'm usually on the West Coast. Today, I'm now your new humidity correspondent. My body is feeling humidity for the first time in a while. Thank you, Chicago. But I'm excited to be here. We're actually going to check out the Sox live on Sunday against the Tigers. But before we face the Tigers, we got to talk about what just happened with the Twins.
Interesting series and interesting salvaging of the series on Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday between the Twins and Tigers series. So the game last night, which I covered, so I was watching intently, where the Twins would score, Sox would score, Twins would score, Sox would. And interesting, here's the thing, nobody, I think, mentioned, although the TV crew at the time put a camera in the Twins dugout in the top of the 10th, and we get on the Hall of Famer baseball person plenty, and absolutely should. But in the top of the 10th, they had Carlos Correa had one of those days off things that they give players periodically. Carlos Correa was on the bench and available, and they had 2 outs, 2 on, top of the 10th. If they don't score, they know they lose. I mean, how the Sox would score the run, but at that point they start with a guy on second and you only need 1 run. You can almost not be able to score. I mean, you got to.
Yeah.
And Correa stayed on the bench while Jeffers, a 170 hitter, made the last out. They had another catcher available on the bench as well, so I don't think they used up their catchers and were stuck. That's as stupid as you can be, frankly.
I mean, to me, it almost feels like what happened was Rocco Baldelli didn't know what to do, so he texted Tony La Russa and said, "What would you do in this scenario?" And Tony said, "Leave the 170 guy in. Trust me." That was a very Tony move to do. In fact, we saw it recently with in Anaheim, the game I was at, where Lurie came up with a chance to win the game, and we had Vaughn sitting on the bench, not win the game, but get us back in the game. We had Vaughn still sitting on the bench. He was having a day off and didn't bring him in the 9th, and we ended up losing that game. That was a very, very strange decision. I'm a little confounded this year on the unwillingness to bring in the stars who are on their day of rest in key moments. I would think that a day of rest for a pro baseball player means you should still be ready to play at any point. You should especially be ready to hit at any point. We're just not going to make you stand out there in the hot sun for 3 hours. It's a really strange decision. I'm very thankful that it happened yesterday with the Twins. That was our first win against the Twins since August of 2021. That is a nasty stat for your division rival who is leading the division. We're currently 5.5 games back of the Twins. We would be 19 games back if we were in the East. We would be 14 games back if we were in the West, and actually probably more because we would be playing West and East teams more.
So I was about to say we'd be a lot more than 19 games back in the East. One thing, we'd probably be in 6th place. I mean, we dump on Baltimore, and it turns out they're not bad. They're just in the East.
Yeah, they're not bad. They've been feasting on the Central when they've played the Central. They've even had a a good series against the Yankees. They're not bad at all, and they're not sitting nearly as far down in the cellar of many of the statistics that we are. But that said, I think last night's win was really, really important.
Yeah, I do too. I think having been swept, you had theoretically some momentum coming in from sweeping the Giants, but those games, I mean, you had two games that were just handed to you by incredibly bad defense, and then a bullpen game for the other team. So there's not a lot of we're there from that kind of thing. And then to lose to the Twins 2 in a row, possibly get swept, and it really looked like that was going to happen. I frankly was very surprised by Vaughn's homer, but we should talk about the first of the homers, the guy who was back, Eloy. I mean, I did the write-up before the game. We went, Eloy is back, Eloy is back, Eloy is back. And I was really thinking, I did not put it, that if he doesn't hit at least 4 homers and make an over-the-wall grab of a catch, it's going to be disappointing for all the hype of getting it back. And then his first time up, he just looked at a strike 3 that was not even close. I mean, it was right in there. I thought, and then the next time, I know you didn't get to see the game because you were at rehearsal, but his home run was straight up in the air.
I saw the highlight of it. That's as high as you can hit a ball and have it still leave the park, I think.
It was the highest one by the White Sox this year, 156 feet.
Wow.
And just stayed fair, but it was still a legit homer, and it was hit hard. It was just hit straight up. When you can hit it straight up and put it out, that's pretty cool. And then, of course, he had another RBI single later on. So I think a 2 for 5 day with a homer and 3 RBIs is quite suitable. He did not run into anybody in left field. He made some routine catches. Then he had one that was a foul ball by Arias, where he went into the net, and the Sox go, wow, all right, great catch. Well, it wasn't a great catch. It was a good catch. It was a great catch for Eloy, and it was great that he didn't get hurt, because that usually is what happens when he runs or something.
Especially when he runs into the net.
Into the net. He gets tangled in the net. So he bounced out of it just fine. So the defense was okay. Certainly as well or better than Andrew Vaughn or Gavin Sheets would have done out there. And there was one time when he came within, 15 feet of Luis Robert, and they all smiled at each other, and after Luis made the catch.
Well, I think, I mean, there was a lot that was encouraging about the way the Sox played yesterday, with the way they were coming back and constantly fighting back.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't seen them do a lot of that this year. We've seen a lot of getting down in games and just kind of blasé for the rest of the day. You know, not fighting back. A big part is getting the ball out of the park for the White Sox. We have not been hitting a lot of home runs. The White Sox, like every team in Major League Baseball, win at an extraordinarily higher percentage when they've got at least one home run. And
even more so with multiples.
While I believe we actually put up 13 runs the other day without hitting a home run, this was a circumstance where you needed to hit a home run. You needed to hit a couple of them just to keep up with the Twins. With guys like Buxton and, of course, Polanco, who had a sort of career day home run wise for him. I mean, you have to match that. And the cool thing is we did. You know, Robert had a laser shot.
That one really was hit. Strangely, it did not have an extremely high exit velocity, but it sure seemed to get into the stands in a hurry.
It looked harder hit than I think it was. And then Vaughn, who dug up a breaking ball on the outside half of the plate and pulled it for a home run, which is surprising. It's kind of a Jose Abreu thing to do. And to see that from Vaughn, to see him getting that power behind it, really hitting out on his front foot, that was a pretty impressive thing. And of course, we know Andrew Vaughn is a legitimate big league hitter now, but you never know in those circumstances how it's going to go. And he dug up a pitch that was going to be really hard to hit out of the ballpark, and he hit it out of the ballpark. And I think there's a lot of good stuff that came out of yesterday.
Actually, a pitch he probably shouldn't have pulled.
He absolutely shouldn't have pulled it. I mean, it was the classic case of sort of a classic Jose Abreu, where mostly from his era where he thinks I have to do it all when the team was really bad. And he would pull those low outside breaking pitches, and he would pull them out of the park for home runs, pitches that you should really always just slap into right field. But when you're strong, you're strong. And Andrew Vaughn, saved the day yesterday. And then our boy Leori got to be the hero on a
whom we always promote.
yes, we're always amping on this podcast. He hit a routine ground ball to third, but because the infield was in, it ended up being the game-winning hit. So this walk-off, I think, is just huge. I think if the White Sox do salvage this season, which it is, we've said before, it is still salvageable. We are not.
They're in the Central.
Because we're in the Central. It's absolutely still salvageable. We're just behind Cleveland for second place now. I think one game. And they've sort of started a little bit of a slide this past week.
Being swept in a 4-game series by Detroit, I would call more than a little bit of a slide.
Well, we're about to play a 4-game series against Detroit, so I'm trying to leave a little room.
Well, if we lose 4 in a row to Detroit, I'll consider it more than a little bit of a slide.
Yes, I think if we lose all 4 to Detroit, we can kind of end this season. But yeah, this was a big win. It's nice to come out here, and I realize we lost the 2 games before, but as we said moments ago, getting swept by the Twins in this series would have been a really, really bad scenario.
And I think, aside from the 2-run homer, I'm not convinced that Eloy, baseball-wise, is the savior of the team. He, for the last year and a half, has been a very average hitter. In fact, last year about as average as you can be at an OPS plus of 99. And of course, the start of this year, he was miserable. He doubled his home run total for the season yesterday. But he has a spirit. And we have some guys with spirit, but they had been dispirited by the way the team was playing and the outcomes of that. And he brought new blood. And we talked about, and you were saying, well, they'd fall behind and then go, well, we're behind. I guess that's it. I think he pumps the happiness, and I'm sure he's super happy because he hasn't played in so long and is coming back from injury. You need happiness. You ain't going to get it from the Hall of Famer baseball person. So you need to generate it yourself among the players.
He does claim that he was jumping up and down so much after the game that he pulled something. So we might get luck. Not Eloy. Oh, sorry. Not Eloy. Tony. Hall of Famer baseball person. So maybe we'll get a few games without Tony in the dugout if he actually did pull something. That'd be nice. But I totally agree with you. Eloy, I mean, we know the guy can hit. It's quite possible that he is going to come in and be a really solid hitter. But he is, and I think we've learned this year more than ever, the lifeblood of the team in terms of spirit. Especially with Tim Anderson dealing with some off-field stuff. Eloy brings this joy.
Tim is the spirit of the team in another sense, as is Jose in yet another sense. Jose is the father figure, I guess.
And the work.
And the leader by example kind of guy. Not that he doesn't get happy. I mean, his grin is 16 feet wide when something goes well. And Tim is enjoying the game a lot of the time. Josh Harrison, who doesn't get to play because he only hits 40 points better than the guy who plays instead of him, and fields better, is a very spirited guy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean any of these guys are downers, but they're just kind of there. I mean, they're just guys playing ball. I'm sure they're enjoying playing the game when it goes well. But and I guess the picture I have of in game, and I don't know if you saw this game because you weren't here, one of the Baltimore games, a pitcher had a good inning, wasn't winning the game or anything. And Rutschman came out from behind the plate. And this is a rookie. Came out from behind the plate, just his feet didn't touch the ground, and he's leaping up and slapping the guy, and the whole team is coming in and slapping him, which I think is the huge difference in Baltimore this year from last year.
Well, and I think that similar energy is exactly what Eloy brings, especially after not playing Major League Baseball since April. The guy loves playing baseball, and he loves playing baseball for the Chicago White Sox. You could feel it last night. We kept getting behind. We didn't have a lead until we won, and that's big in a 9-8 game. To not have a lead till it's 9-8, and it was Eloy's spirit, I think, that kept us in that game, kept us coming back over and over and over again. And I'm just so thankful he's back. I'm so thankful that we have that spirit, we have that energy. Let's take our break here, and then I want to talk about my current favorite White Sox player, who is not getting quite as much love, probably as he should, Sebi. Because Sebi has been a truly shocking development for the White Sox. So let's take a quick break.
Hard to disagree with that.
And we will be right back on Sharing Sox. Welcome back to Sharing Sox. We spent the first half talking about the lovely walk-off win and the resolve of the team and Eloy's spirit, which I just think is going to do wonders for this team. But I want to talk about Sebi. We have a catcher right now, I can't believe I'm saying this, who is hitting 345. 345.
And catching well.
Better than he ever has, at least. Yeah. What do we do about this? What do we do? I mean, I guess when Grandal comes back, you have to play Grandal. But do we have... It's tough to say, oh, well, then we don't need Rhys, because Rhys is the best defensive player on the team. So you don't want to lose that. But how can we send a guy hitting 345 and playing a solid catcher back to Charlotte?
I keep thinking, they haven't paid attention. Other teams have not paid attention to Sebi. They whatever book they had on him last year is expired because he's changed how he hits, very much changed how he hits, and they haven't adapted to his adaptation yet, which is a series of sequence that happens with every player, and many rookies or sophomores go downhill real quickly because the league finds out that a fastball under your hands is an easy out. I think it yet may happen with Sevi. He hasn't been around long enough that they've paid a lot of attention. I think they're going to pay more attention now. I think we'll see in the next series. And we've got 4 games with Detroit, 4 games with Cleveland, 4 games again with Minnesota. It'll be particularly telling in that last Minnesota series if they have adapted to Sevi, if he plays. But you're right. We've got 3 catchers. It's, I think, hard to carry 3 catchers, especially when you have such incredibly bad defenders. I mean, we've really got at least 5 designated hitters on the team, and they're playing the 2 corner spots in the outfield and first base, frankly, and catching in the case of the Yasmani. There is that we would have a catcher available, and I think it would be Sevi for trade. And I think and Sebi's the one, because the teams that are rebuilding, blah blah, means they don't pay anybody to get anything. The teams that are looking for cheap help could go big for Sebi. Now, it could be a long-term, very big mistake to trade him, but in the short term, if you're looking at this year and we need to recover and we need to catch up or at least get into the wild card, trading him for some other help. The bullpen, I think, is not good. I mean, we thought we had this $1 trillion bullpen going in. Hendricks has been great since he came back. Graveman got hit last night. Graveman has had some very good games. He's not at all consistent, typical reliever. Kelly was a bizarre acquisition in the first place, since he had left last season badly injured. I don't know if they didn't do a physical on him or what. And then he comes in spring training. It's late spring training even, and it's the same injury, and it carries him through April. What did they not study before? It's like a $15-16 million 2-year contract?
I assume that when they signed Joe Kelly, the whole point was because the Twins signed Correa and we needed somebody to bean him. And that was the only reason I could figure out, because they have a historic beef. Kelly actually got to face Correa the other night, and there was no jabbering whatsoever, which, was a huge disappointment for me. I have no idea what is up with that Joe Kelly signing. We certainly didn't.
Not that he wasn't previously a very good reliever. He was.
Yeah, I've actually always liked Joe Kelly. I mean,
he was a very injured reliever.
Yeah, and now, now with what we've seen, he's a huge liability to even put him in a game. And I realize you want to keep using guys to see if they can get it, but he don't got it. He just don't got it this year. And I don't know what's to be done about that, because we spent way too much money on him. But we desperately need relief pitching. Foster is also an example of a guy who comes out once every 2 times or every 3, and it's just lights out, terrific. And then the other times he gives up 4 runs and is just shelled and is walking people. And, we do not have a reliable middle relief whatsoever, which would not be a problem if we had starters that could go more than 5. But we don't. We find ourselves in this area where our starters, Cueto from time to time, occasionally we're getting 6 innings out of someone. But still, that leaves the 7th and the 8th before you get to
the 2 who are usually good for more innings are really struggling on pitch hits. Lynn 29 in the first inning last night and 24 the next inning. And he recovered. He had 3 real quick innings, but still he was toast. And of course, Giolito, who is really struggling. There seemed to be some indications he was saying he thinks he knows what he was doing. They're saying they think they know what Michael Kopech is mechanically off, because he's really off.
Yeah.
I mean, you say, well, we don't need a starting pitcher, but maybe we do.
It's certainly not a bad idea. Cueto has come in and done a nice job. But we shouldn't put all of our eggs in that basket. I'm glad we have him. I think he can be very valuable down the second half of the season, but we might be in the market for a starter. So here's my question for you. If we get to the end of these next 12 games, right? We're going to play Detroit for 4, Cleveland for 4, Minnesota
for 4, right?
And that's when we hit
the All-Star break.
Yeah. If Sebi is hitting 350 at the end of those games, do you trade him or do you make him your starter?
That's it. That's an interesting question. I think he almost has to. Right now, the odd man out really is just money. Say based on small sample size that can stay, but if it stays around and he plays the way both offensively and defensively he has been, and then Reese is not a great hitter, but he's a left-handed hitter, which we really need, and he's a terrific catcher. Yasmani is a worse than average catcher. He's a negative D-WAR catcher. He was not getting the walks. I think pitchers maybe finally figured out, well, maybe we shouldn't be too fine with him because we don't have to be. He was incredible late August through September. But he was not anything. The knee injuries. Knee injuries are a big thing, not just for being able to catch, for being able to hit. If you don't have your legs and you are strictly a power guy, uh, that's rough. It's not like he could switch to slapping singles into left field and be valuable that way.
Well, I think you're exactly right about, his on base percentage last year was over 400, even though he was hitting below 2. I think he might have gotten a little higher
Below
by
200 most of the year anyway. Yeah.
Well, he was not doing that same thing this year. And I think you're right. Well, I should clarify. He was definitely doing some of that, the under 200 thing. But his on base percentage, and I think you're exactly right. People learn, the pitchers learn, and pitching coaches learn that you don't need to pitch around him. You can go straight for him. He might get one out of the park every now and then, but it's better than putting him on base every single time, which is almost what was happening last year. What do we do when he's back and we've got McGuire, who honestly has been better than I expected overall? He needs to get some sort of power going at the plate. He's such a non-threat power-wise right now, but he's been a good catcher, very good catcher. He's been hitting in over 200, over 220, which for a catcher in the big leagues is...
Particularly a guy who's designed to be the backup catcher.
Yeah.
A lot of backup catchers hit about 120.
Absolutely. So then what do you do if Sebi's hitting? And I mean, I guess the answer to that for a lot of people is trade him. You trade him. You trade him while he's hitting 350 because you'll never get that value
at the peak. Yeah, absolutely.
But the issue is what happens when you trade him and then all of a sudden...
And Grandal's knee goes out again, and we've got absolutely nobody else to catch behind McGuire.
Exactly. Or even if Grandal's knee doesn't officially go out, he's still so far from 100% that he's a liability to have in the game as well. And he's hitting 150 and he's not walking and can't catch very well and that kind of thing. This is a predicament I did not expect. And I like Sebi a lot. And I think Sebi is always improving. I think he's always working hard. I think he's become a smarter catcher. I think he's become a much smarter hitter over the last year. I think when he's been in Charlotte, he has used that time to improve. My issue with trading Sebi, if he is still hitting, 350 or something ridiculous, which, that's ridiculous to think he would keep hitting it. But if he does, I just don't know that you're going to get a good enough return to roll the dice.
Well, I think what you have to do, and this would apply to any trade, anytime for any team, is you float it.
Yeah.
And you see what you can get. And I would say probably in this case, you end up pulling it back. And you won't get what you want.
Yeah.
But the depth problem, we really have nobody else in the minors. So if you were to trade Sebi and his money goes down again, and I think he will, I saw something that was interesting. It was on Fangraphs, where it was an article from several years ago. Because you think of, well, catchers are going to go downhill faster than anybody else because the thighs turn to lead, and that's a very unnatural way to spend your life, crouched back there. That actually they don't. That they start a little downhill first, but then the curve through your 30s for catchers and other position players, is roughly equal, which I was very surprised by that. I thought, and of course we've got some catchers who probably skew that curve, because I think Molina is going to catch till he's at least on Social Security.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I don't know. I don't think they can keep 3 catchers.
Yeah.
Even though Yasmani can play first, yes, but we got like 28 guys who can play first, and need to get some time over there so they're not in the outfield screwing everything up. Or third, I mean, right? I'm in all my thinking here about our designated hitters. Berger's a designated hitter. He can't play defense.
Yeah.
So he just went on the IL.
I mean, we've got guys we can trade. They are currently in the majors on our team. And a lot of fans are going to be like, no, 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 don't trade these guys. They're going to be great. Well, those are guys you have to trade to get someone good. And if teams are willing to part with someone good for Berger and Sheets, and I wouldn't trade Vaughn for really anything right now.
No. Vaughn, you would need to get some incredible return that you're not going to get. But Berger and Sheets, I think, are quite expendable.
I would get rid of them immediately. I mean, if someone offered me a decent number 4 starter or a solid reliever, a really good reliever, a decent reliever, I would get rid of those guys.
Especially if who you got, and Montas fits this, has more than, it's not just a rental. He has another season to go. Just the rentals, they can pay off, but it's expensive.
It is. And I'm not writing off Jake Berger and Gavin Sheets as solid Major League Baseball players. They very well could be decent first basemen or DHs, but we just don't have space for them to be on this team right now. They don't fit in with what we need to be doing. Berger's pretty awful at third. Sheets is bottom of the league as a fielder in right, and honestly, he's not even that good of a fielder at first.
No. Vaughn is pretty adequate. He made one bad play yesterday, but he made one great play. But Vaughn is pretty adequate at
Vaughn,
first.
you can put at first base and field fine. Like I don't see putting Vaughn there as a huge defensive downgrade from Abreu. Abreu,
I think he's an upgrade.
Yeah, Abreu.
Jose is pretty
great
bad.
Season a couple years ago playing first, but he has gone downhill or returned to downhill.
Yeah, I mean, it was so strange. Bad, incredibly good. Bad.
Yeah.
It's just that 1 year of superdom at first base.
So there's definitely room for Vaughn. So basically, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to. Your suggestion, which you've definitely suggested just now, and you can't argue it, is that we get Grandal whipped into shape and put him out in right.
He might be better out there.
Which could be an upgrade. Probably not, but it could be an upgrade. Anyway, we are running out of time today. Do you have anything else you want to touch on?
We got 4 games with Detroit, which, knock on, found some wood, should be an opportunity. We're 2 games under 500. I don't think sweeps are tough. 3 out of 4, I think, is an expectation with the Tigers. So we said the same thing with the Orioles.
I'm smirking. I'm smirking over here.
3 out of 4 with the Tigers would at least make us a 500 team going into the last 8 games before the All-Star game. 4 is possible, new spirit and all that. Anything less than 3 out of 4, I think, is going to be a big disappointment this weekend.
I agree. And I think not only does it need to be 3 out of 4, but it needs to not be 2-1 games and 3-2 games. If you can't wake up your bats against Detroit, then they're probably going to keep sleeping. And this is a golden opportunity to just start cranking the ball, running up the score, getting that fire lit underneath everybody. Once a couple people catch fire, other guys tend to follow suit. And
saying is that it's contagious.
It's contagious. And just having, as we talked about before, Eloy's energy back, and the fact that he came out and started with a couple of really important hits. I think 3 out of 4 is 100% expected. In fact, anything less is a real huge disappointment because we're at home, especially. But a sweep is what we need. We need the sweep. We need to go into the Cleveland series ahead of Cleveland. We need to go into the Minnesota series within striking distance, where A sweep of that series would tie us at least. All of these things are very possible over the next 12 games. But we do need to see the life back in this entire team. And we need to see our starting pitchers who are struggling get it together. But that's all the time we have for Sharing Sox. Thanks so much for listening. We will actually be, I mentioned before, we'll be attending the game on Sunday. So we will maybe see some of you Southside Sox fans out there. And if not, we will see you next time on Sharing Sox.